sustainability is going to be the way business is done. So I think the real opportunity for myself and other CPAs is to, I guess, bring directionality to what sustainability standards ought to contain and what the most important things for the users of the reports that are being created using those standards will be. So, for example, investors, especially in a country like Canada, really ought to be informed of factors that relate to the interaction between a business and Indigenous rights holders in whatever territory or whatever space that the business is operating. There's a lot of linkages that a business ought to start to make, and that's some of the work that I get to do, is to help inform businesses and why there's a need for these things and how it fits into sustainability. There's not only a need for Indigenous inclusion and representation in those standards, but there's a huge opportunity for tremendous leadership and the traditional knowledge that Indigenous peoples bring with them can be a fantastic addition to things like sustainability and standard setting.
I'm really excited by the aspirational goals of diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion at Deloitte. When I think about a few specific focus areas, it's holding everyone accountable for diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, so that it's not just down to an HR team or a small diversity team that's focused on it. The second part is also really important, which is building trust. Yeah, the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation has been so foundational for me because I think about my childhood. I'm a first-generation Canadian. My parents are immigrants, and so when I was growing up, I grew up going to Chinese school in Chinatown. We do our grocery shopping there. We'd have meals with friends and family, and so there's just something really nostalgic and memorable about that. Now, while I didn't grow up in Vancouver, there's a commonality and consistency for Chinatowns around the world that's the same. And so when I moved to Vancouver and I met Carol Lee and got involved in the Chinatown Foundation, really thinking about what is the future? The future is not going to be the same as what Chinatown was in the past, but that it's so important for us to really work together to think about a resilient, thriving future for Chinatown. It's been a personal passion, something that I love spending time on. And to be frank, it's been really fun.
But one that comes to mind perhaps is a CCAA, which is a Companies Creditors Arrangement Act restructuring that we did for a public Canadian company that had manufacturing operations in China and sales and distribution centers across the world. What was particularly challenging with this restructuring exercise was the multi-jurisdictions that we were dealing with. From an insolvency perspective, it meant a Canadian filing, a filing in Hong Kong, filing in China, as well as in the US and in the UK. Particularly what was challenging for us was developing a strong relationship with our counterparts in each of those jurisdictions, internally in the firm, but also externally with the legal counsels that were advising us in these different jurisdictions. Once we got over that hump, of course, things moved relatively smoothly. And what was particularly notable for me was the results that we ended up getting through this restructuring, which particularly led to all of the creditors getting paid in full and the shareholders in Canada getting a dividend in terms of a return on their shareholdings, which is very rare in most restructurings. But this one turned out that way, which has left a mark on me for my entire career.
It has really been a pleasure for me to invest my time in the not-for-profit sector as an auditor and an advisor. Being able to specialize in this sector allows me really to be comfortable and be able to help my clients to a higher level, I believe. I'm not going to say that we've overcome all the challenges, but I think we've done a really good job of educating a lot of the stakeholders in the sector. These providers, small or large, are dealing with multitude of stakeholders and a lot of demands on their time, and they have very little administrative funding to support that. They are really doing it because they're invested in helping our community. They're not in it for the money. They're working long hours and really passionate about what they're trying to deliver. So it is really rewarding to be able to work with individuals that are trying to do so much for our community and appreciate any help that we can provide them. My focus has been to advocate for removal of any unnecessary administrative tasks, improve efficiencies, and really look for more alignment between the different levels of government and or ministries so that there is more of the tax dollars that are going to serve our residents in the community and less time and money being wasted.
So when I think about the letter CPA, I think about courage, I think about protection, and I think about adaptation. I think having the courage to really engage and connect with the people that we are supporting, whether it's with our clients, the people in the organizations that we work with, or the people in the communities in which we live and work. Being truly interested and wanting to understand and having the courage to go and learn about people different than ourselves and how we can help them is, I think, a critically important part of how this profession is relevant and valuable. Protection is really all about how we help to give people confidence in the organizations that they work with, knowing that CPAs are both a part of those organizations and also providing support to those organizations, gives people a sense of confidence and that they're dealing with a truly reliable and credible brand. And I think adaptation is really all about understanding how, as our world continues to evolve and new innovative accelerating technologies like artificial intelligence are going to continue to transform the way in which we live and work, having the capacity to bring our skills and our capabilities to organizations to help to navigate and understand how that makes people's lives better is all a part of how our profession can be valuable and valued by society overall.
Success story in my career. It's hard, right? Because there's no final destination that I would define as success. So along the way, there's been plenty. I mean, anytime you bring a mine in particular into production, from nothing to first gold and then into production it's such a long time to do that. It involves so many people. Anytime you're able to accomplish that, it's a big success. And if you do that well enough times, you can build a great gold company like we're doing at Equinox. But you never reach that destination, right? As soon as you have some success in one area of your company or your career, I feel like you're moving on to the next one. And probably we don't stop and celebrate enough, but that's kind of the way I look at it, is just continue to try to grow, continue to try to do better. ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance related reporting and I guess endeavors at the company have become more and more of a focus, in part because our stakeholders and shareholders demand the company be more focused in that area and be more transparent in that area. But I think more importantly, it's establishing that social license and those good relationships in the areas that we operate with the local communities, with our employees, with the local governments. Those relationships are what allow us to mine, and to sustainably mine and mine profitably for the long term. And it's important that those communities know, what we're doing and the benefits that mining are providing to the area. And it's important for other communities in new places that we're going also understand the same thing.
My first, tip to young females who are aspiring to executive levels of leadership: you do need to draw on those softer, more human, innate skills. Secondly, you need to become an organizational, operational expert in your enterprise. You really can't aspire to executive and strategic levels of leadership if you really aren't operationally relevant. And certainly owners, shareholders, directors, when they're looking for persons who are going to make it to that C office, that corner suite office, they're looking for persons who can actually not just report on the numbers, but they can actually change the numbers. And that's my final tip for persons and young ladies who are getting into this and want to aspire to more executive levels. You need to demonstrate that you're not just a reporter of the numbers, but you need to demonstrate that you can actively move those numbers. You understand the drivers behind the management accounts, the management discussion and analysis, and that you are a key strategic partner in actually improving and enhancing the operational results.
I know in my early years as an instructor, often students with degrees would come back to KPU with an attempt to get their CPA credits to then move into the CPA program. And they were often faced with barriers, whether it was prerequisite barriers or it might be program barriers, that made it very difficult for them to get the courses they needed. And so in response to that, we decided that we would develop a post-bac in accounting for students with degrees. And so we took the initiative and we started to do the research and develop the program. And from my perspective as the chair, I put together a very strong faculty team who are willing to work on it. Putting together a program in a public institution requires an enormous amount of work. There's consultations, there's research, there's documentation that's needed. I think somebody told me once there's 19 steps to get it from the beginning to the end. So it's quite lengthy, it's quite involved, and so getting it to its final stages and then implementing and rolling it out was this pretty significant achievement in terms of my perspective, but also I think from a student perspective, it provided students the pathway to the CPA and hopefully made it easier for them to move forward.